Morning, everyone. I'm Keith here at Good Heart Church. I want to welcome everybody that has come today, everybody who watches this later on. We want to welcome in all the light spirits, and we want to thank Mary for doing her job behind the scenes that nobody ever sees, both monitoring the computer and monitoring the camera. So we want to thank her for that. And um, we don't have many announcements that I can think of today. So I hope everybody enjoyed last week's, even though it wasn't in our normal setting. But that's going to happen from time to time due to weather and so forth. So today we're going to talk about different names for the same thing, which is alter ego, false ego, persona, and then how that works into the collective ego. So with that said, let's just go ahead and get started. Um, go ahead and say a prayer to your deity, asking for whatever you need to ask for, and praying for whomever, and of course asking that you get out of this today what you are supposed to get out of it. So, and we'll go into a relaxation process before we get started on the talk here at our gathering today. We come out of our prayer to our deity. Let's go ahead and start to relax. Starting at the top of your head, relax your scalp and temples. Relax your forehead and take that crease out from in between your eyes, and relax your eyes. Relax your cheekbones, your jawbone. Drop your tongue down to the bottom of your mouth so that it's relaxed as well. Relax your ears and neck, and drop your shoulders down away from your ears. All the while you're doing this, keeping your spine as straight as possible and letting the energies flow through all your chakras. With each breath out, continue to breathe, continue to relax your upper arms, your elbows, your lower arms, your wrists, hands, and fingers. Relax your upper back and your chest, your lower back, and your belly. Relax your hips and buttocks as you sink into whatever it is you're sitting in. Relax your upper legs, your knees, your lower legs, your ankles, feet, and toes. Now take a few moments to continue to relax, to be able to receive what it is you are to receive today. As you relax, do it with each breath out, trying to breathe through your belly as best you can. Coming out back into the room that you're with, that you're in. Bring yourself back to the consciousness of the talk today and receive what is for you today, what resonates with you as we give ourselves to our deities and begin to listen to what is being said. Okay, good morning, everybody, again. I'm going to try and stand up so we can see the board. We're talking about alter ego, false ego. And what does that mean? Alter ego, false ego, persona are pretty much all synonyms for the same thing. We, in our human body, we have a very big want to be the best. We have a want to show people who we are. We want, for instance, she's not going to catch this, but I'll bring it over. Why is it that when I come into a room, to this room in particular, I bring this nice fancy cane with me? Mind you, I need a cane right now because I need a new hip, and I'm in a lot of pain. But why is that so fancy so that I show it off? And why can't I just use my simple little cane? Why can't I do that? Why don't I do that? Well, it's because of my ego. I want to show off to everybody. I want to put on a persona. It's the same thing. Give you another example. It's the same thing that when I walk into this room, and you guys oftentimes see me walking in unless I'm doing it somewhere else. I wear this hat. Nice hat. I like my hat. But when it's cold outside, I do have a work hat like that too. But when it's cold outside, I really run around like this. So why do I wear the Outback hat to walk into this room instead of walking in like this? Or why do I wear a hat at all? Again, it's because of my ego. I want everybody to see me as the best I can. Why do I dress up every day for you folks? Why can't I come in my overalls or my sweatpants? Well, that comes down to the collective ego. That's not really accepted. The collective ego wants to have it, which is also collective ego is sort of brought about by social pressures, you know. Um, so why can't we just be who we are? Why can't we be the spirit that we are and be equal? Well, I don't know. Today, as I was going through looking into what I was doing today, contemplating everything that I had on my mind, I came up with more questions than answers today. More questions than answers. Like the alter ego, the false ego. Um, why can't I stay in the moment, go with the flow? Why do I have to be as good as the Joneses? Why do I want to keep my myself looking good for when I go out? I don't worry about that when I'm at home. You come and visit me when I'm at home, you're going to find me in overalls or a sweatsuit, just playing around. You're not going to find me dressed up. You're not going to find me in a button-down shirt. Well, you might find me in a button-down shirt underneath my overalls, but you're not going to find me nicely dressed. But I have to put the persona on to you of that I'm who I am, that I am the teacher that you want me to be, that I am the qualified person to do this by showing you through my persona that I can do this. I'm no different now than I am when I'm at home with my overalls on and working on the land. I'm no different, but I'm portraying that I am. I'm portraying that I have a different persona. I put on a persona. And let me bring something to your attention. Persona, person. Person comes from the word persona, which means a person is always putting on a persona. We're not we're not spirits. And so the false ego, the alter ego, and the collective ego and persona. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory when you think about it. Um, the collective ego is it works both ways with the collective ego. And not only does it help us to create our false ego and our persona, but we help to create it by what we do. So it's a back and forth thing where we are reacting to the collective ego, the social pressures that creates us to put out the false ego. And what ego is what? Ego doesn't care. We are governed in the third dimension by ego if we don't get into spirit. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have to have that we shouldn't have an ego. I'm saying we shouldn't have the false ego and we shouldn't have the alter ego. We should have our regular ego, which is spiritual. Okay. Now, when we come into this world, I don't know exactly the best person I've ever known to explain this is Edgar Tolle in his books. And I highly suggested anybody out there might want to consider reading this. But it doesn't matter. Our ego doesn't care how it's fed. The bully in the high schools and the schools is doing it because of ego. The shy one is also doing it because of ego. The everything is done for ego. It doesn't matter if it's praise or if it's non-praise, as long as it gets the attention. That's what it's about, getting the attention, not doing right all the time, but getting the attention from other people. When I go out and buy a brand new car, which I've never done, I'm doing it for everybody to go, ooh, ah, and it makes me feel good that everybody says, how nice is your vehicle? Why do I brag about doing things on my truck? Because it feels good at saying, you can do that. You know, why is it, all these things are feeding my ego? Everything feeds my ego. So I've got to sit down here, but so I'm not sure where this talk is going because I'm being just sort of going with the flow here. But ego is so much of our lives that we forget about spirit. We forget about going with the flow. We forget about the Earth Mother. We only concern ourselves with me. And that raises a lot of questions. Why do I need that? Why do why do I even need if I'm going into spirit and I do that through meditation mostly and contemplation and doing everything for spirit, not for your ego. And that's really the trick. The trick is to say, I'm going to do my job in a spiritual manner. I'm going to do my job so that I am serving my spirit, so that I am serving my deity, because they're both the same. Your deity is inside of you, so you're feeding you're doing it for spirit. And if you do that instead of saying I'm doing it for the boss or I'm doing it so that I can get a paycheck, I need to do better so I can get a higher paycheck. That's all ego. And so if we do it for spirit, we do it for the right reasons. Like I've said before, that's why I say be spiritual in everything you do at the end of every time I talk, because that is the ultimate goal, being spiritual in everything I do. We have been told, we have been told that other civilizations have been much more spiritual than we are. And it's sort of intellectually and scientifically proven. And I say theorized more or less likely that these other civilizations, such as the Mayans and Atlantis and ancient Egypt and so forth, were more spiritual than we are today. And there's good proof of that, but it's still only theory because we don't know what the masses did. We don't know why they fell. Did they fall because they weren't being spiritual anymore? Did they fall because of the collective ego or the alternate collective ego? Did they fall because of the Earth Mother saying, it's time for me to turn over? Why are there megaliths at the bottom of the Caribbean Sea? Why don't we know anything about these civilizations of the past? We have archaeologists that are trying or seem to be trying to get these answers, but they're only educated guesses because they didn't live then. You know, I met up with a fella, gosh, I haven't thought of this in years. Met up with a fella from Israel years ago. I'm talking 25, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, probably. And he didn't. We were delivering telephone books, and I was married. I was married to my late wife, and Donna. And we got to talking to him, and we said something about him being part of the Jewish faith, and we were at that time veering toward the Christian faith, and so we got to talking about them, and he said, Israel's no different than the United States. He says, I'm not a practicing Jew, but I don't go to the synagogue. He said 80% of the people in Israel don't go, just like 80% of the people in the United States don't go. They don't practice those things. So my point is, how do we know that the Mayan culture didn't have 80% of their people that didn't do anything? How do we know that the Atlanteans didn't have 80% of their people that weren't doing the right thing? Or the Lemurians? We don't know that. We only see what we're guessing and saying, oh, they must have been more spiritual than us. Well, there is evidence through mostly indigenous people of how to live with the Mother Earth, live with the Earth, and we have word of mouth from the last several thousands of years that show us that people were more spiritual, some peoples, but the more it seems like the more civilized, and I'll put that in air quotes, we get, the more we devolve spiritually, the more we digress and looking and being spiritual. That's just what it looks like. I don't know if that's true or not. That's what I said. This brings on a lot of questions. Um, why is it that when you have a sage of today, a rishi, a guru, a master, a saint, whatever you want to call them, why is it that they only talk about the last 12 to 15,000 years? Why don't they talk about the Atlanteans that were supposedly here before us and got flooded, maybe got taken out in Noah's flood? We don't know. I don't know. Why are they on? Why is it antiquity to us only goes back to when we believe mankind came and developed onto this earth 12, 15,000 years ago. Nobody talks now. The earth is shown to be billions of years old, but we're not told anything about what happened in the several billions of years. And why can't these? My point is, why don't these? These are the questions I had this morning while I was contemplating this talk. Why can't the rishis and the sages and the enlightened ones and the saints, when they go into the unified field with their meditations, why don't they tell us about what happened back then, so that we don't repeat it or so that we can understand it? I don't know what the answer is to that. They only talk about from this time on, from the last time we were brought onto this earth. Why is it that they don't talk? We know, and this is, I know, may be controversial to some of you, but we know that there's other life out in the universe. There's no doubt about it. There's no way the universe can be this big and only have life on one little tiny pebble in the universe. That just makes no sense logically. But yet, the masters and sages don't talk to us about that. They only talk to us about enlightened beings like angels and archangels. They don't talk to us about people that might be be growing and but still be behind us in growth. They don't talk about people who have been here tens of thousands of years. They don't talk about any of this. Why don't they? These are the kinds of questions that were going through my mind this morning. And I have no answers for them. I just don't have the answers. Is that because of their ego? Because even though they're sages and enlightened, that they still have an earthly ego? Don't know. How do we find this out? Don't know. You know, um, why is it that everything in this world is geared toward me? Each person in this world wants to do with themselves. What happened? Why do we have that separateness? The ego. Why do we have the want to be better than? Why do we have that feeling of being lesser than? It's a feeding of an ego. Why can't we realize that we are all one? Why can't we progress instead of digress spiritually? Why can't why do I have to have or want a guru to guide me? If it's all inside of me, like everybody says, why can't I just go inside of me and find all this out? Why do I need to have even this talk today? Technically, I don't get very many views, as anybody that watches this can see. But you know what? It'd be nice if nobody watched it if I knew that they were all going inside themselves and finding this information out on their own. See, we don't do that. And the reason we need the gurus and the enlightened ones and whatever you want to call them is to get guidance to be able to go and do that. It's not to listen to them and say, "Oh, this person says this, they must be the best. They must be the end all be all of spirituality. They must really know what they're talking about." That's not what they're here for. They're here to guide you to go into yourself, to find your own spirit, to get in touch with your own spirit and find all this information out for yourself. For your spirit already knows these things. Your spirit, you say, well, then if that spirit knows all this stuff, why the heck am I even on this earth? Well, I have my ideas on that and I'll share them with you. But again, I don't know. But my ideas are spirit lives in the essence of love. And spirit does not have a way of feeling the feelings that we have, the pains, the sorrows, the inadequacies of human life. So they put themselves with through the soul into a third dimensional being in our case, so that they have these experiences of all these feelings and all these experiences. They can't experience these things any other way because they themselves or us or you or me spiritually live in love. So that's my idea on it. And I'm sure other people agree with that. But again, because I'm in the third dimension, I have no proof of that. And that's where it comes down to. It comes down to the ego is what tries to control us in the third dimension. And we have to learn through the right channels to how to get back and be in touch with spirit so that we can move through this and get the experiences that we're supposed to. Should it bother me that It got 3 below 0 last week. Why should it bother me that it gets up to 100 degrees in the summer? If I went with the flow and experienced it and learned at it and looked at it as an experience for spiritual reasons, I would understand that it makes no difference whether it's -3 or 110. I'm here to experience this for spirit. I'm here to be spiritual with everything I do. I'm here to become the experience that I'm to become, to go with the flow that's here, to stay in the moment. Boy, that gets preached a lot. Stay in the moment, stay in the moment, stay in the moment. How do you do that? What do you do? How can I plan for a vacation if I stay in the moment? All kinds of questions. There's so many questions that are people can be not be answered, and I'm not going to get all these answers in this lifetime, probably. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And all I can say is that it's time to get back to spirit. Time to learn how to stay in the moment. Time to be one with the Earth Mother. Time to be one with the unified field. Time to be be the experience and the observer of the experience and not manipulate it. We do a lot of manipulation. And this is even part of the collective ego. What do? We dam up the rivers because we don't like them flooding. And sometimes we even reroute the rivers. We tear down forests so that we can do what we want to do on that land, farm it, or just build a building on it, or graze our animals on it. We do a lot of manipulation. We tear things apart. We strip out mine places. We clear off places so we can put oil wells in. We clear off areas where there's ores of any kind, whether it be coal or iron ore or copper. We manipulate everything, and we do not live with the Earth Mother. We try to manipulate her, and that's part of the collective ego. We have to do this. We are superior to her. Well, let me tell you, she shows us all the time that we're not superior. She floods without even with the dams there. She gives us forest fires. Creates mudslides and says, "See, you built this house on the cliff, and what happened?" You know, she shows us that she's more powerful than us. She's no better than us because she's just a being. She's a sentient being, just like we are. But just like you, she can only take so much. And if we would start living in unison with her, if we would start living in unison with everybody else, if we would start realizing that we are not separate. Keith is not separate from Mary, is not separate from Joe or Sean or Jackie or anybody else in this world, that we're all one. We're all fractals of the one having different experiences for that one. And that one is not the earth. That one is not a conglomerate of the earth people. That one is the universe. We are all one in the universe, not just people here on earth. We are one with the trees. We are one with the fish and all of what's in the oceans and all the land animals, the belly animals, the two-legged birds, the or, and the, you know the all people. all peoples of the earth, including possibly even the Middle Earth people and the other peoples around us that we can't see that are in a different dimension than us. We are part of this, is all part of the same experience. They are experiencing something different than us in their fractal of their part in this universe, but we're all one and we're all experiencing this together. And when we get into spirit, we might be able to experience more of this and experience the unity of all of this and realize that without me on this earth, without my spirit in the universe is not the same place. Just like you take sand off the beach and it's not the same as the beach. It takes every grain of sand to create a beach. It takes every drop of water to create an ocean. It takes every person in the universe to create the universe. We are not separate from. So I don't know if I did anything for you today. I don't know if I did anything for you today. I know I came in here with a lot more questions than I'm even bringing up, but maybe it'll stimulate some questions in you. You know, like before I go, the other day I was talking to somebody and they were talking about all the different things that go on and how can I get through this? What is it that I should be doing? And I keep doing. He says my ADHD gets me down. Can't stay on one subject. And I said, you need to go down those rabbit holes. You need to go down those individual rabbit holes in books that he was reading or in the research he was doing online or both. I said, eventually it all starts coming together. But we need those rabbit holes. We need to learn about the megaliths. We need to learn about the civilizations prior to us. We need to learn about all of these things, about spirituality and of the whatever canonical book you read or combination of. I read a lot of different ones. We need that. That stimulates us, that inspires us to get more spiritual, and eventually it all comes together or somewhat comes together. Don't know that it ever comes together completely until you get into spirit and become enlightened. But at least you have a path to go with. And if you go, I remember when I first started all this, you go down this rabbit hole. I'd say, now what the heck does this to do with this rabbit hole over here? You know? And eventually they all started getting closer and closer and closer into one unified thing. So you're where you're supposed to be today. So don't worry about what you're studying, how you're studying it. So you're where you're supposed to be today. So don't worry about what you're studying, how you're studying it, but make sure you question it. I was mentioning this to Mary this morning about what I was talking about today, and she said, well, you are telling people to think for themselves. And that's what I'm trying. That wasn't the original objective of today, but it happens. It still tells you some of the things that we did before. Question everything. Think for yourself. Raise your vibration. Get the guidance. Get the meditation. Go find your own spirit. Find the spirit of the unified field. That's you know that's what we're all about. All kinds of questions. The answers are there, especially through spirit. So, with that said, let's go ahead, hit the subscribe button, give me a like, um, ring the bell, share this with other people. and above all, practice to be spiritual in everything you do. Until next time.